The Seattle Seahawks just turned into the one team nobody in this league once lined up across from them, and it happened faster than anyone was ready for. Once they were the old Legion of Boom group with Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll yelling on the sideline. Now they are walking back onto the Super Bowl stage with Sam Darnold at quarterback and Mike McDonald in charge. And it somehow feels even more dangerous. Nobody expected a quarterback many people had already judged, and a young defensive coach to drag this franchise from the edge of a reset back to the center of the football world. But here they are, carrying the kind of quiet confidence that makes every other contender a little nervous. On offense, it does not look flashy at first glance, but the longer you watch it, the more it feels like a problem that just keeps growing. Sam Darnold is not out there chasing highlight throws every snap. He is running Clint Kubiak's system, trusting his feet and letting his playmakers do the damage. Jackson Smith-Njigba has stepped forward as that smooth route runner who is always open when the moment gets tight. Cooper Kupp keeps bailing out drives with veteran timing and feel. Kenneth Walker turns late game carries into body shots, and Rashid Shaheed can flip an entire night with one burst down the field. Behind them, Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas are grinding through pain and still holding the edge. And the rest of this line has finally started to move people instead of just surviving, which is why this attack suddenly looks built for long drives when the lights are brightest. Then you look at the other side of the ball and realize why this whole thing feels so complete. Up front, Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy are collapsing the pocket. Ernest Jones is erasing runs that used to gash this team, and DeMarcus Lawrence is setting the tone on the edge so the pass rush can hunt on third down. In the secondary, Rick Woolen and Devin Witherspoon are living in mage coverage. Julian Love and Kobe Bryant are closing space over the top, and Jay Harbaugh's special teams group with Rashid Shaheed has already swung real playoff moments. This is not a fluke run or a cute story. It is a complete football team built around a very specific plan. And to really understand how they pulled this off, you have to start with how Sam Darnold went from cast off to the center of everything Seattle is trying to finish. But before we get into that, hit that like and subscribe button for more Seahawks and all the NFL content. Let's aim for 500 likes on this video. Nobody planned for Sam Darnold to end up here. That is what makes this so wild. His story was supposed to be finished in the eyes of a lot of people the moment things went wrong with the New York Jets, and then slipped again with the Carolina Panthers. Bad timing, shaky protection, coaching changes, all of it piled up until most of the league quietly moved him into that box where you put talented players you do not fully trust. What nobody was talking about is the way he responded when it could have been easiest to chase one more short-term starting job and hope for a quick fix. Instead, he chose something that did not grab headlines at all, and that choice is the reason we are even having this conversation about the Seattle Seahawks today. The real turning point did not come in a spotlight game. It came in meeting rooms and scout team reps. Sam Darnold went to San Francisco and sat in a room with Kyle Shanahan, Clint Kubiak, and a staff that treats every detail of quarterback play like gold. He was not the face of the team. He was not carrying a franchise. He was just learning, listening, and rebuilding the way he saw the field. That patience followed him to Minnesota, where Kevin O'Connell plugged him into a system that finally looked like it fit his eyes and his timing. He played his cleanest football there, showed he could operate a modern passing game, then watched the team make a tough business call, draft another young quarterback, and move their resources around the offensive line and defense. On paper, it looked like he was back on the market again. Same old story. In reality, he had quietly turned into a completely different version of himself, ready for the right call. That call came from Seattle, and everything about it felt different from the start. The contract was team-friendly. The expectations outside the building were low, but inside the room, Clint Kubiak already knew exactly what buttons to push. Sam Darnold walked into a situation that did not ask him to pretend to be a hero every snap. It asked him to run an offense built around his strengths and the talent around him. Even when he opened this run with a rough night and heavy criticism, he never slipped back into the frantic style that haunted his early years. He stayed within the structure, trusted his work, and the deeper the season went, the calmer he looked in the biggest moments. Now, he is standing in front of a Super Bowl shot with a chance to finish a full career rewrite. And the crazy part is that this is only the start of understanding how Seattle built an attack that makes his skill set hit harder every single drive. Nobody in Seattle is asking Sam Darnold to drop back 45 times and play hero ball, and that is exactly why this works. Clint Kubiak has built a structure that lets the quarterback breathe, with heavy play action, motion everywhere, and a running game that keeps defenses guessing on every snap. Instead of standing in empty formations, staring at 4 deep shells, Sam Darnold is turning his back to the defense, selling the fake, snapping his head around, and finding windows that are already opening. It sounds simple when you say it out loud, but this is the difference between a quarterback carrying chaos and a quarterback driving a system. The shocking part is how much calmer he looks now that the plan is built to make life easier on him, not harder. Look at how the skill positions are used, and you can see the intent. Kenneth Walker is the tone setter, hammering into fronts early, then punishing tired defenders late when Seattle is trying to close the door. Before his injury, Zach Charbonnet gave them that steady, no-nonsense style that kept drives on schedule, and the staff never panicked when he went down. They just leaned deeper into what Kenneth Walker does best. On the outside, Jackson Smith-Njigba has moved from quiet third option to true centerpiece, turning precise routes into easy throws for Sam Darnold and piling up production without needing 12 deep shots a night. Cooper Kupp slides into every soft spot on the field, like he has been in this system for years. And Rashid Shaheed is the chaos card, the guy whose one snap can change field position or blow open a coverage. Even young depth pieces like Torrey Horton showed in the preseason that there's another wave coming, which is why this group never feels one injury away from falling apart. All of that only hits this hard because the group in front has finally started to look like a real strength instead of a yearly problem. Charles Cross fought through foot, knee, and hamstring pain and still held his side against real pass rushers. Abraham Lucas got back to moving people off the ball instead of just hanging on. And rookie guard Gray Zabel fought through his early wall to become a powerful run blocker by the stretch run. Tight ends like A.J. Barner and Elijah Arroyo do the dirty work in the running game and then slip out into space when defenses overcommit, giving Sam Darnold simple answers when pressure comes. Put it all together, and you get an offense that protects its quarterback with structure, personnel, and patience. And the natural question that comes next is how the front office had the nerve to tear down the old core and build this entire thing from the ground up without ever losing the locker room. Front offices talk about being bold all the time, but the Seattle Seahawks actually did it when it hurt. They moved Russell Wilson when he was still seen as one of the top quarterbacks in football, not after his value fell off a cliff. They watched the outside world question that choice while Denver loaded up, called them crazy for shipping out a franchise star, and then quietly used every piece of that return to shape a different future. Those picks and those cap savings turned into the kind of roster that can carry Sam Darnold now. And the shocking part is that it started with the decision most teams are too nervous to even consider when the face of the franchise still sells jerseys and fills highlight reels. The just-in-case plan was Geno Smith, and that chapter says a lot about how this reset really worked. Geno Smith came in, surprised almost everyone, played efficient football, dragged Seattle back into the playoff mix, and showed that this staff could win without leaning on old memories. At the same time, John Schneider and the building never confused a good story with the final picture. While Geno Smith was fighting every week, they were drafting players like Jackson Smith-Njigba, adding backs like Kenneth Walker, reinforcing the line, and watching the ceiling of the team bump into that same zone where 9 wins feels good but not special. It is not disrespect to Geno Smith to say this. It is just the reality that if you want to chase trophies, you cannot cling to any one version of your team just because it helped you stay afloat for a season. That same cold vision showed up when they chose to let names like Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf walk into different situations rather than tying up massive long-term money in receivers who had already given them so many big moments. They thanked those players, trusted the younger pieces they had drafted, turned to Sam Darnold on a smart contract, and paired all of it with a complete change at the top of the headset by moving on from Pete Carroll and hiring Mike McDonald. Every one of those calls could have backfired. Instead, they lined up to create a roster that fits its coach perfectly. Now that cool front office gamble has handed Mike McDonald the exact kind of pieces he wanted, and the way he has turned that into a defense that can choke out games is its own story. The Seattle Seahawks defense might be the real reason every team left in this league is a little scared to see that logo. For years, people talked about this franchise like the offense had to carry a soft middle, like the days of the old Legion were gone for good. Mike McDonald walked in, looked at that film, and decided the story was finished with that version of Seattle. Now offenses do not see open grass and easy rushing lanes. They see waves of blue coming at them from every angle. And the shocking part is how fast this unit went from leaky to suffocating without losing its discipline or its swagger. Up front, it starts with power and attitude. Leonard Williams is crashing pockets and refusing to be moved in the run game. Byron Murphy fires off the ball and eats double teams so everyone else can hunt. And Ernest Jones cleans up everything that tries to slip through the cracks. On the edge, DeMarcus Lawrence sets a hard edge that turns runs back inside and still has enough juice to win against tackles in clear passing downs, while rushers like Uchenna Nwosu, Boy Moffitt, Tyrese Knight, and Derek Hall take turns firing off the corner when it is time to go after the quarterback. This is not a group that waits for mistakes. They squeeze the pocket, close running lanes, and force offenses into obvious passing situations where McDonald can start calling the creative stuff he brought from Baltimore. Behind that front, the coverage look has been completely rebuilt. Rick Woolen and Devin Witherspoon can play tight man coverage on the outside, press, bail, or blitz without losing confidence, while Julian Love and Kobe Bryant float over the top, disguise rotations, and erase the soft spots that used to show up when Jamal Adams had to live deep instead of closer to the line. Even when someone like Rick Woolen rides that emotional line and gets caught talking after a near interception, the lesson is simple instead of harsh. Play with fire, but finish the job. That mindset has turned this defense into a group that expects to close games. And you really feel it when you look at how they strangled drives from teams like the 49ers and Rams on the way to the Super Bowl run, which is where the real test of this whole system shows up in the playoff gauntlet Seattle just survived. The Seattle Seahawks did not sneak into the Super Bowl. They crawled through the side of the mountain every team in this league stares at and tries to avoid. All season, the story around Sam Darnold was simple and harsh. He could dice up almost anyone, but the Los Angeles Rams were that one defense that seemed to live in his head. Opening night, that ugly performance gave every critic fresh fuel, and people were ready to stamp this whole project as fragile. Then came that return trip on a short week, Seattle walking back into a stadium where things had gone wrong before. And this time, Sam Darnold answered with the kind of poise that turns noise into respect. The long strike to Rashid Shaheed, the fearless decision to go for two, the finish that flipped home field later in the year. That was the night the locker room stopped hoping and started believing they could push anyone around when it mattered. San Francisco was the next test, and that game looked exactly like people expected. A slow burn, where every yard felt like a small fight. The 49ers tried to drag Seattle back into that old script where they control the line of scrimmage and lean on their rhythm, but Mike McDonald's defense matched every punch, and Sam Darnold kept answering with just enough big throws to keep the pressure off his own sideline. Then came the third, meeting with the Rams in the championship, and that fourth quarter is where this run really turned into something bigger. A defense that used to wear down in these moments stood tall inside the shadow of its own goalposts, locked in tight coverage, stuffed runs that normally break free, and squeezed the final drive until there was nothing left. After that stand, the offense walked back out and closed the door with the kind of long, calm march that tells the whole league, this is not luck. This is who we are now. Zoom out, and the picture gets even clearer. This was an NFC with real threats all over the place, from a Detroit Lions group that pushed late into the year, to a rising Chicago Bears team, to plenty of deep rosters that never even made it past the wild card round. Seattle went through the heart of that field, took out two of the most respected systems in football, and now walks into the Super Bowl as the team that already proved it can handle the most physical conference in the sport. The funny part is that the next opponent does not come from that side of the bracket at all. It is a New England Patriots team with a tough defense, a young passer in Drake May, and a very different kind of challenge that might actually tell us even more about how ready the Seahawks are to finish this story. The Seattle Seahawks enter this Super Bowl favored on paper, with Sam Darnold in top form, a deep offense, and a defense that just battled past the Rams and 49ers. But the New England Patriots are a patient, physical trap team built to punish any slip in focus. Their defense has given up only 26 points in 3 playoff games, while Drake May has managed the game with just 533 passing yards, no true top receiver, and a shaky left tackle. Seattle will try to attack injured pieces like Robert Spillane and Harold Landry with Kenneth Walker, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Cooper Kupp, Rashid Shaheed, and a line led by Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas. Push for an early lead and force a young rookie to chase the game against Mike McDonald's defense, turning this matchup into a straight test of which roster is tougher under real Super Bowl pressure. The Seattle Seahawks reached this Super Bowl banged up but built to handle it, with Drake Thomas battling a shoulder issue, Elijah Arroyo as a rookie tight end, easing back into a role that can stress the middle, Charles Cross and the line playing through pain, and Sam Darnold using the extra time to rest his core, while the staff trusts what he has already put on tape. The New England Patriots have their own concerns, with Robert Spillane managing an ankle problem Kenneth Walker and the Seattle blockers will test, and Harold Landry fighting a knee issue against tackles like Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas. Behind all of it is a roster plan that spreads money and belief, with Sam Darnold on a smart deal, young impact players like Jackson Smith-Njigba and Elijah Arroyo still on first contracts, and core pieces such as Byron Murphy, Leonard Williams, Ernest Jones, Rashid Shaheed, and Devin Witherspoon giving Mike McDonald high-level talent at key spots, creating a team that can absorb injuries now and a model other franchises will study if Seattle finishes this climb.